I am Victoria L. Burson. This is Leadership on the Go. Leadership is not always preparedness for the unknown, but it is tapping into the unknown prepared. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad that you decided to join us. Please take time to like, share, and tag any and everyone you believe need to see this. It's going down like 4 flat tires tonight. We have a special guest tonight. And before I get to the special guest, I just want to welcome all of you to Essentials Unleashed, another installment of Leadership on the Go, where we enlighten, encourage, and empower people to live on purpose and lead with passion. Tonight, our special guest is none other than Pastor Doretha Williams Flournoy. Pastor Doretha Williams Flournoy will come on board. She is out of North Highlands, California. She's part of the MCC Church and Movement. She's also TFAM, the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. And I just would like to welcome her on board. Come on and join us. Yes.
Privilege it is to be here in this space. Oh my God, there is so much wonderful power and energy. I'm just like, whoa, look at that.
Yes. So thank you so much for being a part of Leadership on the Go, where we do enlighten people, we encourage people, we empower people to live on purpose and lead with passion. Mm-hmm. And so you and I were having a wonderful conversation the other day. And I said, oh my God, I just can't. We just have to have this conversation about how you and I, in particularly, have become free agents in the ways in which we lead, the ways we're learning to lead authentically, and what that came with, because that did come with something, right? It did cost a lot to get to this place as women over 50. To get to this place, I ain't gonna tell on us though. I ain't gonna tell our age. Amen. I'm just gonna say
I don't have any problem at all saying that I'm 60 years old.
All right. And I will be 58. Yes, I will be 58 in 6 weeks. Amen. Wow. Amen. I'm getting there. And so we just want to have an impromptu conversation around what it really means to be free and authentic in our leadership and the way we move pre, during, and post COVID, right? And things that we found out about ourselves. And so if anybody is listening, please tag, like, and share the ways in which you can tag, like, and share, because this is going to be an awesome conversation. Leadership on the Go. We're going to talk to you about 30 minutes and then we'll be done, right? But before we get started, I just want Reverend Doretha Williams Flournoy to say a little bit about yourself, or say a lot, and don't leave nothing out. You are a powerful woman to be reckoned with, and I don't want to leave anything out. So just tell us, who you are and what you do.
Well, it is a privilege to be here in this space with you today. You are an amazing ambassador for leadership. And I'm grateful that you even invited me to this platform. Thank you for sharing this with me. I just sitting here watching the intro. I was like, whoa, look at that. So she's taking it to a whole different level. I said, go ahead, girl. Well, I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, AKA Watts, and my mother had a 3rd grade education. My father graduated from high school while I was in the 9th grade. And
wow.
And they had a very conservative or limited view of what they thought was possible, for their children in the world. And all along the journey, I have always felt compelled to do a little bit more and to push the boundaries a little bit more. But I think throughout all of that, the one thing that I have always sort of held on to was this thing about fear. And
Mm,
fear has influenced my entire life. Even to this day, I still struggle with fear of being good enough, not good enough, fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of people, of disappointing people, and all of that has somehow or another influenced my journey.
mm,
So for me in this part of my life right now, I am really working on putting that to bed.
yes, yes.
It's been in my face now, and I am taking it on with fervor at this point in my life. And so I ended up being bused to school 35 miles from my house. We were the first class of kids to be bused outside of the LA Unified School District into, a white school, completely white school, and participated in a lot of, as a result, I ended up participating in a lot of racial awareness kinds of trainings and activities, and felt compelled to sort of change the script of what
Mm,
Black people looked like and how they performed and who they were at the time, and all of that came out of my efforts to improve the quality of my education and my environment and where I was. I had teachers who had wanted me to apply, and I did apply to a school in Andover, Massachusetts, a private, all girls school in Andover, Massachusetts. And I tried to get in and learn that although I was the top kid in my school, I was not the top kid on their list. And I think there's
mm,
something different about what happens in this environment and what you learn and what happens in the environment that I was being raised in, and that I needed to put myself in that other environment, in that more task oriented, stressful environment, in order to learn what they know and to do what they do and to do it better so that I could then achieve, right?
right, right.
So I actually called the school myself, the high school that I wanted to be bused into. I was 14 years old. And I talked to them about going to Pacific Palisades High School because my best friend went to Pacific Palisades and she was bused out there. And they said, oh, there's no space at that school. And I said, really? They said, but we do have something called Birmingham High School. I said, I'll take it. I'm 14 years old. I signed the paperwork, my parents' name on the paperwork, and I got my parents to drop me off at 6:30 in the morning for a bus stop, at a bus stop, about 10 blocks from my house. And that began, I think, my way of kind of taking risks and stepping
Mm,
out there and putting myself in a place where I expected to be better. And so over the course of that time period, I've gone to, UC Riverside. I got my bachelor's degree there. I got I got my master's degree from San Francisco State University, got a master's degree and started my PhD at Penn State University, all in clinical psychology, thinking that I was going to be a clinical psychologist. I went through forensic training, thinking I was going to, be a forensic psychologist, and worked at Patton State Hospital for the criminally insane, and interviewed people and did all of that work, and fell in love with this guy.
love
who,
will do it.
okay, okay, okay. Fell in love with this guy who ended up being a gay man and ended up being HIV positive. But we spent a year in Africa and changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Mm,
Um, From there, I ended up working at, I became the CEO of AIDS Project of the East Bay,
oh, wow.
and doing AIDS work because, my partner was a HIV positive man.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up at AIDS Project of the East Bay, ended up at Lion Martin Women's Health Services as the CEO there. I went to the, let's see, where'd I go from there? California Medical Association, and worked for their foundation, training physicians across the state, and ended up at the California Institute for Behavioral Health Solutions and was the COO in that environment. and most recently was the CEO for the California Black Health Network, which is a statewide advocacy organization for African Americans. All along, pastoring a church, in 2006. I actually used to say that I didn't want to be a pastor, that being a
We
pastor
all did.
was something you did when you didn't have anything else to do,
Right, right.
And I met Frida Smith, who was the pastor at MCC Sacramento, and she sat down and looked at me and said, I think you really have something else going on that you need to explore and think about, and connected me with a variety of people who then said, you're going to be a pastor. And before I knew it, I didn't even go through all of the mechanisms to become a pastor. I didn't go to full-time seminary or any of that stuff. People just kind of took the degrees that I had and the experiences that I had. I think I did maybe a year or so of a bunch of seminary type classes, and did well in that environment. And the next thing I knew, I had a church. And so we started a church for all in 2006, because MCC, Metropolitan Community Churches, was probably 90% white.
White, come on, let's just say what it is.
And people of color were struggling.
Yeah.
And they were asking the question, they were looking at TFAM at the time and saying, why is it that Black, gay, LGBT folk were flocking to that? And I said to them, because you don't have a platform for us to develop and grow and show our talents and open up a space for us. And they were like, really? And I said, and so I think you should create a pilot church that is based on that uses the leadership skills of people of color to then, set the model for how to go in this. And they kind of nodded a little bit, a little hesitant at first. And in my radical, I took that as a yes and ran with it. And eventually the church became a part of MCC. And what's been funny is that we have loved TFAM from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And had this wonderful relationship with Bishop Flunder and Bonnie Radden, Bishop Radden, and have just watched the TFAM grow, and I grow every time they grow. Every time
Right. I do too.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, a church for all, the structure of a church for all looks a lot like City of Refuge, because the ministry that City of Refuge has is the kind of ministry that we have. We have a service. Our church is probably 75% service and 25% worship. We have two mental health programs. One is the mental health respite program for people who are having an emotional or mental health crisis. And the other is the Living Room, which is a suicide prevention program directed towards African Americans. They're both funded by the county. And the Ripple Effect has been, the respite program is called the Ripple Effect, and it's been in existence for about 5 or 6 years now. And the Suicide Prevention Project is about 1.5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting, run. You told me to I normally don't get into all of this, but
no, I love it. So I know what I told you. You ain't got to tell the people what I told you. So listen, but I wanted the people to hear that, because you've done a lot. You've been through a lot. You were very forthcoming in the very beginning around this whole notion of fear. And we'll get to that, because and we're pastors, right?
Yes.
And you and I were talking about this whole notion of fear. And I know that we have, when COVID happened, the one thing that was I got saddened about, and I was talking to some of my colleagues about, that I believe the church started shaming people because of the fear. The fear of COVID. We started shaming people in our sermons, in our scripture readings. We started shaming people in messages on Facebook that God didn't give you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Yeah, God didn't give it to us, but we still have it, right? And it's the human,
And we were dying from it.
And we were dying from that form of fear, not knowing what to do. Should we go? Should we go to the doctor? Should we stay home? Because if you go to the hospital, you're going to get it. All these things that we were being told, right? Or not told. But this whole notion of fear, kind of like, and I heard you said through your trajectory of life, your matriculation of even all your education, you still held on to this thing called fear, right?
Right.
which leads to a lot of our anxieties. And there's a lot of leaders, not just pastors, but leaders across the globe who do have this whole notion of fear and
Yeah.
this anxiety, this real anxiety. I have had it. I'm a great leader, but I still deal with this whole notion of anxiety, right? And so I want you and I to get into this dialogue like we pretty much did the other day around I'm 58, you're 60, we're here now. And how have we reimagined fear and anxiety in order to walk into our wholeness and our authentic selves as leaders and be free at the same time, right? The things that used to bound us, the things that used to confine us and enslave us to the whole notion of fear. And the learned behavior came along with it now. The learned behaviors well, I've been in church all my life. I tell people I learned all my sins in church. So,
Yep.
And I learned all my mistakes from church. And I'm not putting church down, but that's my reality. And so church has always been my life. I mean, I am a third generation pastor and preacher. And so let's talk about, so the leaders can get a little nudge of what we were talking about the other day and how we freed ourselves and how this, but before we freed ourselves, how we were engulfed with other people's opinions and being yes people and allowing people to predetermine our path because of our own learned behavior around anxiety and fear, if you will. Let's talk about that. Go ahead. Come on. Talk about that.
So, I got saved on the mourner's bench at
These people don't know about no mourners, bitch. How you gonna bring that up?
okay. Yeah, a little tiny Baptist church in LA. And there was this it was a black church, right? So this is the dynamic that we have, right? This is our challenge. It was a black church, and they would bring in a white evangelist to help re-energize them and to help them maintain the vision of where God is calling them to be.
Wow.
And one night, this particular, now, this guy is pretty good. I don't know really. So because I was 5 years old. Okay. So how much do I really know? Right.
Right.
But he came into the church and he asked, who wanted to be saved? And he went through this whole gyration about what it meant to be saved. And the only person who raised their hand was me, and this little 5-year-old girl. And he made me get up, come into the aisle, and then walk down the front to him. And he talked to me about being a sinner saved by grace. Okay. And that God, it was going to lead my life. And he started prophesying over me right then and there in front of my parents about where I was going to go and what I was going to do. Now, I'm not saying that he was wrong, because when I look at the trajectory of my life, I can tell you that the things that I've done and the places that I've been don't fall anywhere within the scope of the family that I was born and raised in. I believe that it is fueled by God. But my belief system is based on this idea that I am not good enough in and of myself, that I don't have enough to give in and of myself, that God is the only source, and that God comes to me through other people, and other people validate the God in me.
Wow.
That has been the trajectory, right? So the prophecies, sitting on the mourner's bench, having people lay hands on me, speak over me, get me to speak in tongues, and all of that powerful experience. I'm not saying that and it resonates with who I am spiritually, right? It resonates with the spirit within me. God speaks to me through those mechanisms, and it's a beautiful thing. I love the relationship I have with God, right? But my understanding of my relationship with God is that I'm a little peon and God is the one who's running everything, and that I have no control over what's going to happen.
Right.
That at any given time, things can switch up and I don't know why, but I just have to follow the will of God. Right. And if it doesn't work out, then it's bad because I'm outside the will of God. That in and of itself creates anxiety. When am I in the will and when am I out of the will? How do I know? Are the bad things are supposed, if it's bad, oh my God, I must have done something wrong. Where did I miss God? How did I not hear from God? How did I not go? That is the foundation, right? I'm going to stop and let you kind of chime in on this, but
no. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm not cutting you off because some of it sounds so familiar, and in Black church it does. No matter what denomination or movement you're a part of,
that's right.
Although we're not monolithic, there's an experience that the Black church has that right. When people tell their story or their testimony, share a part of their narrative, there's a familiarness to it, right? And so I wasn't stopping you because it was all sounding familiar. And but I want to get now, I want to fast forward and come to now where you pretty much don't give a damn about what people have to say. I mean, we might a little bit, right? Well, because we are still a work in progress.
Right? That's part of the fear. Because when I step out on what I believe is right, when I step out and do the thing that I believe that I'm called to do, I'm in the back of my mind going, oh my God, am I really following the will of God? Am I really hearing this right? Who's going to say, well, I'm looking around, seeing if somebody's going to say something, right? But I'm pushed to do the right thing, to do the thing that I've been called to do. And so I follow that and I step out. But in the back of my mind, I wake up at 3:00 in the morning thinking about it. Oh no.
Oh, I know. And one of my learning goals, when I was in a clinical residency program in Louisiana, one of my learning goals was to stop second guessing myself, right? And to follow the initial thought that I have, because I believe that God always gives me that initial thought, and I go back and I second guess that thought. And so as a leader right now, and looking back and allowing, and of course there are people that have been called to our lives to help us walk through the journey. I've had people called to my life. I mean, I could tell you, even Bishop Flournoy was called to me. T-Fan was called to me because of where I was in time and in space, and at a traditional setting where I really was not fitting in, right? And it wasn't because of my orientation as much as it was my literal whole experience as a Black same gender loving woman.
That's
period. Period. And it was being
add that to the mix.
Right. Yeah, we didn't even go there yet, right? We didn't go there yet. We will go there.
The hammer will fall, and you'll find out, that you've not saved any of your life. It's like, what?
Right. But Bishop Flournoy and Steve Harvey, Oprah, for me, in 1 year, and bumper stickers and billboards, all were giving me the same message, and that was jump. And so in 2019, I decided to jump from pastoring full-time at a church. And it was just my time. You know what? If I could be honest, it was my time prior to that. But, I have letting go issues, so I hold on to things. And sometimes when we hold on to things, we make them worse, right? And so, but what I didn't want to do, and so when I heard Steve Harvey and Bishop Flournoy's voices were the last two voices that I heard about this whole notion of just jumping. And there's something about when you take a risk on yourself.
That's right.
It's something about emancipation.
That's right.
Self-emancipation, when you are no longer enslaved to what the hell people think or care. And and when I used to go to therapy, my therapist used to say, how you feel about me is none of my business, right? And so I started living how people feel about me had to be none of my business, because I was getting too engulfed in how others felt, how others viewed me. Now I do have a couple of friends, homegirls, that I would just, once every so moon, maybe every other year, just say, okay, I mean, who really, really know a sister, and ask for them to give me some live, critique, right? Or feedback, right? Critical critique is kind of a little dangerous, because critical critique is always trying to get people to move out of their selves, right? And start taking on the uniform of what I believe about you, right? And so, but I do value some of my friends, and I value my mentors and stuff like that. They're in my life for a reason. But when I jumped, I spoke to my wife and I said, hey, honey, we talked about 6 months before I did it, maybe a year before I did it, to be honest. But 6 months was that. And I said, I'm just going to go do this.
There you go.
Because it was just time. It was time. There was a part of me that was dying inside, literally. Literally. It had nothing to do with where I was. It had a lot to do with where I was going, right? And I was freezing my growth by staying somewhere that I wasn't supposed to stay spiritually, right? And sometimes a lot of us as leaders, we do that. And so, let's talk about jumping. You've jumped. Now, you may not have jumped all the way.
Oh no, I did. I jumped in April.
Okay, well, good. Because in our conversation, we didn't get to finish talking.
In a different kind of way. I have never wanted to be full-time in ministry.
Okay.
The church, I had a certain lifestyle, a certain, expectation around income.
Yes.
And the church that I have has not ever been able to meet that.
Absolutely.
And I didn't really believe in the ministry that I had. I believed in my purpose on some level, in terms of bridging the gap between people, bringing people together to do some, amazing things, to create new things, to think about new ways of supporting people and opening up doors for folks who don't normally do that for themselves. I got that. And I could see that thread running through all the jobs that I had. But when I started the church in 2006, I had no intention of doing that full time. And I didn't like how it was looking. I wanted a church that looked like what you see on TV. I wanted,
right.
I wanted to drive the kind of cars that the pastors whose churches I went to, I wanted to drive the kind of cars they were driving. I wanted to be able to send my kids to college and all that stuff. And so I kept a full-time job working for other people while I was not working on my church. God was sustaining the church. This is back to that whole thing about, God being in control, and it's God's thing. It's not my thing. I just happen to be, in a position where God can kind of, and it kept wearing on me and wearing me down. And the positions that I would get into, I would build up the organizations that I'm a part of, that I was working for. Right. And then starving out my kid, starving out my church. My church was not getting the full me. The other place was the full Doretha. They were getting all of her skills. They were getting her, the midnight hour, wake up calls and, all of that stuff they were getting, but my church wasn't getting that. And it got to a point where I said, okay, I am in the best circumstance that I have ever been in right now. And I feel the worst than I've ever been. And I'm not happy in this space. What is going on, God? And I wanted to hold on and keep babying it, nurturing it, because it was my thing. I was breastfeeding it myself. And I'm like, look, it ain't going nowhere, right? This baby is mine. I need to keep it going. And God said, no, you don't. No, you don't. And so God worked it out so that the board of directors and I had a conversation, and we both came and said the same things to each other at the same time. We're not going to do this anymore. And I said, perfect. And you could have sworn I had gotten anointed. The energy of that just came over me. I almost fell out. And it was so good. I was like, wow, look at that. Look at that. They gave me some money. They kept me for a few months and made my life good. And I was doing the church thing. And then all of a sudden, I started looking at my bank account, and I said, you need to go get a job. And Spirit spoke to me and said, you could do that, but you've been doing that. When are you going to do something different? When are you going to trust? And this time, I don't want you to trust me, because you trust me all the time to manage things and to take care of. The only reason why you work for other people is because you don't trust you.
Come on now. Yes.
Church. You don't trust your ability and the partnership that you and I have together to build this thing and to make it grow and to sustain you. That's the issue. It's about sustaining you. You don't believe that you and I together can sustain you, And so I said, all right, you're right about that. And I'm going to keep looking for jobs, right? And so finally, this perfect job popped up. And I said, that's the one that I want. I'm going to go for that. And God spoke to me again. I mean, I'm just literally, I could hear the conversation in my head going, you could do that and you'd get the job. But when are you going to take a chance? When are you going to jump? When are you going to believe and trust and take the chance and see what we can do together?
Yes.
And and all of a sudden the rebellious side of me rose up. Well, I could do that. I can listen to you. I can, follow up and jump and do this. And I said, are you crazy? And the moment I said, okay, I'm going with you. I'm not going to take another job. I'm going to rely on this church. I'm going to
Absolutely.
believe I'm believing that you and I are going to sustain me, and that it's not even about the church. It's not even about the church. It's not about the church having enough money or not having enough money. My resources come from somewhere else. And the moment I said that, the moment I said, I trust you, and
Yes, yes.
God opened up doors, and every time it would just money was just dropping. I have this I've been working for the last, I noticed that it was been 3 years that I've been working on these affirmations, and they're I am statements. And so if you ever listen to some of the services that I've done, I make people go through these I am statements. And mine, as one of the primary ones that I have, is that um a money magnet. You know,
That's good.
Right. I am profitable. I am,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
go through all of these things around money, because money is an issue in my head. That's part of my issue. My parents didn't have a whole lot of it. They held on to it like it was, like if they lost it, they would die. And
Wow.
and so for me, it was like, oh, I always have to have enough money. Well, I don't have to have enough money. God and I have a relationship. And I needed to understand who I was before I got here, before I got to this place, and understand that my trajectory in life has been ordained by God, and that together we've been moving in and out of all of the ups and the downs, and that everything has been intentionally designed to get me to this place where I am right now. And that
Intentionally designed.
intentional design.
As-
I am intentionally designed. Yes.
and your awareness, your self-actualization has caused you to
There
be
you go.
more self-aware.
There you go.
Life is about becoming self-aware of self
That's right.
and your relationship with God,
right.
and not just trusting God, but trusting the God in you
That's right.
and the God in others that God sends forth.
That's right. That's right.
And we can't keep, I used to be a type of leader that you were guilty until proven innocent.
That's right.
And I mean, long time ago. And so, I mean, I was a good leader, but I was lousy in it, because years ago, it's like I was suspicious of everybody. What the hell you want? Why are you trying to get so close to me? What do you know what I'm saying?
Out.
Right. And then I had to shift that mindset about 20 years ago. I had to shift the ways in which I would think as a leader, right? God does not have me in leadership to cause me to fail. And listen, this is a new thing. Can I talk about one of my freedoms?
Go ahead.
I am so excited that I am not scared to fail anymore.
See, one of my
failure is good. Had it not been for, I mean, let's look at Thomas Edison. Come on, how many times did he have to? What was it, 10,000 times? And we have been taught, especially our particular generation, baby boomers have been taught to focus on your weakness rather than your strength. And we've gone crazy doing it. Right. And when I was pastoring, and when I go out and I teach leadership, I tell people, do not focus on your weakness, because for every strength, there is a corresponding weakness.
So, when I was in Egypt, I was in the pyramids, climbing up the pyramids, and I was a bigger girl than I am now. Right. And it was a struggle. And Spirit spoke to me and said, what your problem is that you always try to lean on your strengths, and you don't accept who you are, your complete self, all of who you are.
Oh, yes.
All of the inadequacies, the weird, quirky things about you. You don't accept that. I want you, in order to get out of this pyramid, you need to lean on your weakness.
Yes.
I want you to lean and count on your weakness. Work your weakness. Get into that. Don't let it go. Don't ignore it. Don't act like it doesn't exist. Don't lean on your good side. You walk on the side that's the weakest. And I want you to see how your weaknesses get you through life, and how you can grow through just acknowledging and appreciating the weakness that you have. That is the little vein in the tapestry. This tapestry behind
absolutely
that makes the picture beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
I was like amazed at how powerful of an experience it was for me to lean into my weakness rather than counting on my strengths to make it through.
We need to lean on it, but we don't need to focus on it.
Right.
So I remember when.
No, we need to appreciate it.
Appreciate
not
weakness.
Try to get rid of them and eradicate them.
Right.
understand that they are a part of who we are, and that they make us the unique being that God created on some level.
So it takes me back to a sermon that a young woman did named Corrales when I was pastoring MCC Baltimore. And she's Latino, and she did a sermon around a lamp that we had in the church that was a mosaic. And she did all the imperfections of the mosaic, the pieces, the broken pieces in between is what made the beautiful lamp.
That's right.
And that thing gave me such chills. And we don't want to accept the broken pieces of our lives that is really perfecting and making us, I never really understood what it meant until I got older and more mature. What it meant in the word of God, as it is stated, count it all joy when you go through trials. Who wants to sit there and just be like, oh, I'm so happy I'm going through trials and tribulations? Right? Who wants to do that, right? But when we get into the meat of it, it is this point that we're talking about, the broken pieces, the weak parts of ourselves and the strong parts of ourselves, building this beautiful mosaic of our being. That's and right. We learn to become authentically free.
That's right.
We become you and I and a lot of others have reimagined what freedom looks like now. Right. Freedom means, it doesn't mean that stuff won't happen. It doesn't mean life won't happen. It doesn't mean, crap won't come to you. It doesn't mean you won't get into, you won't have a bad relationship. It doesn't mean any of that. But if you can just balance yourself in it, right? Because I really don't care how people value. Listen, here's where I am now. I love people, and I love love, and I love loving God's people. And I love, and whether they're Christian or not, let me put it that way. I don't care if they're Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim. I love people, and I love it. And the bigger I get to know the other instead of othering them, the more I get to know them, the bigger God comes for me. And that's a part of my freedom.
That's right. That's right. That's actually how I've gotten to this point, is that I began to listen to things that other people told me, that my Christian folk told me were an anathema, that were, don't listen to them, they're an abomination.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had to listen to in order to be who I am, a Black lesbian. I had to figure out how to deal with that in a Black church.
Right.
It's not acceptable, right? I had to find people who were living outside on the fringe in order to understand and accept that part of myself, right?
That goes back to Bishop's book.
There you go.
Yes.
The margins. That's right.
Yes.
And in order to even gain an understanding about this whole weakness thing, I have listened to people who are outside of the Christian philosophy, because they have an understanding of God and a relationship with God that's translated in a different way. And I hear it when I talk to them, I go, I can see that. And then I can see the correlation between how I understand God and the path that God has put me on. It's been amazing.
It is amazing.
When you listen to other people anymore,
when you jump and you embrace otherness and you become mindful of the mindfulness teachings out there. And it doesn't say that I'm grabbing everything, but I'm grabbing what's for me. I started doing meditation about maybe 7 years ago. And understanding the difference between meditation and prayer and conversations with God. And I mean, even Renita Williams has a book out, Talking with God, that, that helped me. I mean, this whole notion of how we see God, because we always want to make God non-tangible. God is way out there. God is nowhere near us. And that's just not the God that I serve. Right. And so this whole thing about do not fear the Lord. Reverential fear is totally different than what we're talking about. But there's a reimagining and a reframing of free will. We do have free will. It is a gift for us. And I was watching a TV show, I think I told you that when we were talking before, called Adjustment Bureau. And it was a movie about a politician. I think he was a governor at the time. Matt Damon was the actor, fall in love with a ballerina. But he couldn't have the ballerina because too many politicians was predetermining his life.
Wow.
So every time he tried to go through one door towards her, they were set on this little computer thing where he could either forget or change the trajectory. And so long we've had people it's not been bad, but there have been some things spoken over us, to us, from us. From us, we got to be honest, right?
Oh, you're right.
That have shifted the ways in which God wanted us to go. But when you get free, and you get free in God, you start, I mean, it's just so amazing when you jump in your own mind, when you jump in your own kind of self-awareness, when you jump, how God starts to actualize your whole blueprint, because it's just not God's will for our lives, it is our will for our lives as
That's
well.
right. That is
And
exactly
what we tend to do is forget about our will, and God does not want us to forget about our will.
right.
And some of us are so holy. Well, whatever the Lord says, well, God waiting on you to say something too, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
and so, our dreams will become bigger. And there's nothing wrong with being a money magnet. I always tell God, let me be debt free and credit worthy. And I have a certain lifestyle I like as well. And it has shifted when I started following the call of God. I tell you that.
Well,
But I,
it doesn't have to, but it
yeah,
doesn't have to. It's about how it comes into existence. And
absolutely,
that's the difference. Do I
absolutely,
rely on the numbers that I see in a bank account? Do
yes,
I rely on what I see on a credit report? Or do I rely on the move and spirit of God that's generating all the things that I want? God told me that I can have whatever I want.
absolutely,
If I speak it, if I can say it, I can speak it into existence.
right,
Told me to think on these things, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are a good report. We forget the power that we have as co-creators with Christ,
right, right,
and in that relationship, we have the ability to create. And we have to know that what we say gets created. And let me just say this. The problem with that is that when we say negative things,
right.
that created too.
That creates. We just created something in the
When we,
atmosphere.
when we say positive things, that gets created too. And our
Yes,
job is to stay in the positive vein so that we can release the things that we want for our lives, and we can see the manifestation of God in our lives, in everything that we want and do. And a lot of the things that we want and want to do will fall away if they're not the things that make us feel connected with God and spirit in the first place.
absolutely, absolutely. Let me tell you something. When I jumped and I became free within myself and free in my thoughts and free from the opinions of others, something amazing happened. God has taken care of me ever since. Because
Hmm.
when I jumped, I didn't have no big bank account. And my wife don't like when I say this, but I didn't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. I really did not have that. But what I had was to rely on the Christ in me, the God in me, the divine saying that it is time. It's been time, but I was ready.
That's right.
When I got ready to jump,
That's right.
it's when we're ready, because time is already there. It's us getting ready or being ready. And when I did it, now some things have happened since then, but I am still the most happiest I've ever been since I've jumped.
That's
I am
right.
the most free since I've jumped. And as a leader, I am telling those who are listening out there or who will listen again, please let us know, like, tag, and share this recording. We went over, but it was so good I let it go over. And so but I'm talking to Reverend Doretha. I always want to call it Dorothea. Doretha Williams Flournoy, who's been a friend of mine for a while. She's an MCC pastor and a T-Fam woman of God as well. And so we're excited about this conversation as two women, two same gender loving women. Now, I have to go back. I'm going to go rewind. When you started this conversation as it relates to leadership, because you're modeling leadership and living out your authentic self right now at 60 years old.
That's
But
right.
you said when you got married and fell in love, which is a great man, because I know him. He's a great man. He's a good looking man. And when you fell in love, you ended up falling in love, or you didn't realize, I don't know, but that he was a gay man, and then it ended up being with HIV. But now you're a gay woman. So
He
how
helped
has
me out.
he helped you come out? But it was already in you,
It was, and I was
right?
denying it. I was acting as if it didn't exist. I
Yes,
would, I would mute my dreams. I would tell myself, I can't watch that on TV. I can't read this particular book, because it was just overflowing all the time, just
right,
bubbling up.
right.
And he helped me to be able, he put me in a place in my life where I had to meet people who were walking in that vein. And
Mm,
those people then helped to mentor me out of my thinking about wanting to kill myself because I was gay.
right, right. I
Because
get it.
I was a lesbian,
Yeah, Yeah.
And they helped me to survive and to move through my understanding about who I was then. And they introduced me to a spiritual community that I could then grow into, which is this community that I've now. I mean, I'm just amazed at how God did all of that, you
Right.
know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely amazed.
And how God did it, but how you walk through it.
Yes,
Right. And so God is always amazing. And I don't know why we still remain in awe when God does something.
yes,
But
yes,
we really should not be in awe of what God can do if we just trust the same God that got us through the last thing, right? But
yes.
we get these new anxieties. So what we want to do in closing, just for a couple more minutes, is really hone in on how do we help people reset their mindset to be free, or reframe or reimagine their free will and set their own path. Charles Schwab's, I quote this all the time because I love it. I put it in sermons, I put it in meditations. But Charles Schwab has a great slogan out, and it says, "Own your tomorrow."
Ha,
Own
ha.
your tomorrow.
I
And
like that.
so I think right now we need to own our freedom. We need
Mm-hmm,
to own our freedom. We're no longer enslaved to anyone. And
mm-hmm,
anyone, I had traditional church told me I would never ever serve as a pastor, but I
mm-hmm,
served as a pastor once I got free from that thinking, because they were not in control of my call, right? That's why
mm-hmm.
I hate this whole notion that God ordains God ordains in the church. No, God calls and the church ordains. Well, I believe God calls and ordains. The church has a part in it, but church has gotten real cocky to some degree about who it wants in and who it wants out.
Yeah.
But God got a way.
And
Bishop Hunt.
that's people, because people are always interested in controlling their environment, and they want to put
Absolutely,
people in boxes, and they want
absolutely,
to be able to say, "Well, I know that person, and so this is the box that they live in." You
absolutely. And we want to not only put people in boxes, but I want to free people. If there are people or leaders over you or around you that are trying to coerce your call, then you need to leave,
yeah.
because people who coerce are nothing but bully leaders. And we
Hmm.
don't need bully leaders in our lives. And I've had some bully leaders in my life. Listen, I was at a church that pretty much, told me they would never ordain a lesbian. And they told their truth. They
They,
told their truth. And I had to be okay with their truth, but I got ordained, right? And so when we know that God is calling us to a great work or a greater work, and God is already ready for us and has already set everything up for us, now that doesn't mean you just jump out there just to be, like in haste, or some people so quickly want to get to a title.
mm-hmm.
My wife she used to teach as a prophet, do the work before you get the badge, right? And so when you do the work before you get the badge, it's easier.
That's
But
right.
it comes with a cost, and you have choices. There are 4 kinds of choices that you can make. And
Mm-hmm.
we won't get into all that tonight, but just close us out with just a nugget about how would you recommend freeing someone to be people are even baby boomers. There are, and I particularly want to talk to Black women in leadership, because we are rising to the top. We have rose to the top, and we continue to rise to the top in our leadership. And if you are positioned somewhere where you are either scared to move, scared to come out, and I'm not talking about come out sexually, I'm talking about just move out. If you feel like you're being bullied, if you feel like anything is happening that it has entrapped you, that you can't move, I'm speaking to you right now that you can do this. The one thing I didn't want to do is remain a pastor at a church that I know I was called to leave 2 years before I left, was because I had letting go issues, like I said. But I also had friends who felt like, Doretha, that they had nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
All their gifts were in the church.
That's
All
right.
their know-how was in the church.
That's right.
And God is, well, if COVID ain't helping you to reevaluate and reformulate
Because
who you are in the earth, and go get some skills, or go get some whatever, or do whatever you do, or go and learn how to set up your own Facebook page or whatever. If COVID is not doing that, or has pointed that out to you, then I don't know what else. I just, particularly Black, African, Black and brown bodies, let me just say that you don't have to stay where you are if you're not celebrated.
That's right.
You don't have to stay where you are if you're, you don't. I know, even if it's misogyny, if it's patriarchy, you can walk if you really want to walk, and you could just jump. You just got to take a risk on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't take risk on ourselves enough. Now go ahead and take us on now. We got a couple minutes. Just give us a nugget about how to help people free, enlighten, encourage, and empower us to live on purpose and lead with passion.
So I think the first thing that you should know is who you are.
Yes.
If you know who you are, then you'll understand the trajectory that you're on. You'll understand how things are always working out for your good. And that no matter where you are in a given moment, you can see how it's fitting within the puzzle piece of your life. And so understanding who you are is the foundation to all of that. If I didn't, right now, I have come to learn of myself as a spirit being, right? I don't just see myself as being grounded in the physical earthly environment that we live in right now. I can, and it makes sense to me because the gifts that I have flow in ways that I just go, whoa, what is that? Right.
Yes.
And I never could put it into words that made sense. And that is the only place that it makes sense, right? And so as part of that spirit place, I need to understand that wherever I am, there is something that I'm supposed to do or something that I'm supposed to get that's going to then move me into the place that I'm supposed to be. If I start with that and understand that all things really, I mean, that scripture is very powerful and we underplay it a lot. All things, good things, bad things, crazy things, stressful things, painful things, all of it is working for your good. All of it is shaping you into who you're supposed to be. All of it is setting the destiny, the destination for your next step. Where you're supposed to go and how you're going to show up. So if you get fired, you get fired. But guess what? As soon as you get fired, that next thing is in process and in development, if it hadn't already been.
Right.
If you end up staying somewhere, it is because there is something you're supposed to get out of that environment and you're supposed to grow in that place. So then stay and get what you're supposed to go. But the moment that it doesn't feel good to you anymore, the moment that you start to feel more burdened than you do uplifting and connected and without purpose, that's when you know you're in the wrong place. Right?
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. The moment you discover all these things. Well, listen, everybody, we've run over our time, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful, mighty. We may have to come back for part 2 for this. Yes, with Reverend Doretha Williams Flournoy. And so, listen, my sister, I am so excited that you said yes. This has been a rich conversation. Hopefully, people will be able to gain, particularly Black and brown bodies, will be able to gain from this conversation that we've had, if you will. I have enjoyed. I always love talking to you. You know that. I wish like we were closer because I would. Well, if COVID wasn't here, if we were closer, we would always be meeting. Right. So thank you again for coming and be a part of us. Listen, every second and fourth Sunday, Essentials Unleashed is doing an installment of Leadership on the Go. So stay tuned because we are here.